Thank you for joining us today. Interesting topic, of course. We're going to talk about GLPs and 503Bs in 2026. So what do we pharmacies, clinics, and prescribers have to know right now? Uh, my name is Nicolette Mathey. I am the founder, pharmacist, CEO of Atrium24. So we have Dae Lee software for our pharmacies that helps them with their sales and marketing and run their business. We have the Atrium24 GPO. So it's always coming up to us, what products are pharmacies dispensing? How do they access these products? What's happening in the legal front? And so to that end, I am excited that we have Dae Lee joining us today. Thank you, Dae.
No problem. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, so we rely on Dae a lot, just as we see these things circulating about in the industry. We see different press releases come down, different things with state boards. So we have Dae with Buchanan. He's a healthcare attorney, pharmacist, and so I know one of the things that actually just came down hot off the press is this lawsuit that we wanted to talk about. But I'll leave it up to you, Dae, how you want to just kind of talk about what's new in 2026, what's happening, and when you want to pop into this Strive suit. Because there's a lot going on.
Yeah, certainly. There's a lot going on. 2026 will be I already see that it's gonna be a good year for pharmacies out there, especially independent pharmacies. There's a lot of good bills introduced to geared towards regulating PBMs more, whether it be Congress level or the state level. Direct to consumer model is emerging or has been emerging, trying to cut out PBMs from the adjudication system. But one of the recognizing that trend, PBMs are feeling a lot of pressure, right? A lot of pressure. Certain major PBMs such as Optum came out and said that, hey, we're gonna stop the rebate model. Okay, we're just gonna get rid of it. It's gonna be rebate towards the patient at the pharmacy counter. And then I believe the other PBM, major PBM, I can't name the PBM, but the PBM, one of the top three, actually sent out a amendment to the independent pharmacies provider agreement, creating a direct-to-consumer network for the cash slash unfunded
Hmm.
claims. Very interesting, right? Because PBMs, they don't want to be displaced from the claim adjudication system. Okay. But if we go into the direct to consumer model, basically there's no PBM. So why is it concerning to the PBMs, especially major PBMs? They're getting displaced. They're not capturing the data. And as you know, data is king, right? Especially claims data. So they're
Yes.
losing the very valuable data. That's why this PBM came up with the DTC network specifically.
Hmm.
And Optum also, and going back to Optum also announced earlier or mid last year that they're going to increase the brand drug reimbursement, which they did. So these major PBMs, traditional top three, big three PBM, they're responding to pressure, responding to pressure from the Congress, from the state legislators, and also consumer groups out there. So 2026 and 2027, 2028, like for the next couple of years, I think we will see a comeback of the independent pharmacies and the reimbursement rate is going to go up and the drug price hopefully is maintained. And in fact, there's an article from New York, I believe, if I recall correctly. It says that in New York, the closing of the number of pharmacies closing got slowed down significantly, and the number of independent pharmacy openings increased, which is great.
Interesting.
And
Yeah.
the chain pharmacies are also closing, so there's an influx of prescription.
Yeah.
Good. So now so that's why I'm telling, I want everybody to know that this year, next couple of years, the independent pharmacy market will be booming. And with the and then GLP-1s and the compounding pharmacies are, they're going to maintain their footprints in the market as well.
Hmm. Well, that's good news. I hope you're right. Um,
Yep.
there's always so much changing, and especially, it's new year. So pharmacies are um, just struggling might not be the right word, but it could feel like a struggle. They're having, all beginning of the year pain points with patients' new insurance plans and formularies changing and technology keeping up. And then you also have new things these pharmacies have to worry about with these MFPs and all these different pricing structures and shell games that they have to kind of jump through and make sure they're getting reimbursed accordingly. So definitely on the PBM side, on the brand name drug side, there's a lot going on. And it's hard because the pharmacies don't have a lot of control there. That's why I like the compounding market so much, because there's less middlemen, of course. And especially with this movement, to your point about direct to consumer, it seems like now more than ever, patients have realized that they can take direct control of their healthcare. They can seek telemedicine providers, they can seek certain therapies. With AI and all the research that's at everybody's fingertips, consumers' fingertips, they're a pretty well educated bunch now. Um, you have to watch what the source is, but it's a great place for pharmacists to step in and advocate and just make sure that patients understand doses and mixing medications together and all these kind of things. But what are you seeing on the compound front? Um, so many lawsuits going around, different updates every day. We don't really know what kind of action the FDA is going to take.
Correct. I mean, we don't know which direction the FDA is going to take or if they take it, right? FDA is still, from my point of view, they're still short-staffed
Yeah.
and they're still trying to they're trying to do the catch-up game, right? I have not seen that much enforcement activity around GLP-1s. Mm. Um, like 503Bs, I know there are 503Bs out there. There are still, they came back, right? Came back manufacturing GLP-1s, whether they add another ingredient or a new ingredient or not. And then they're providing their products to their customers, including 503As. But to my knowledge, I have not seen any warning letters or enforcement activity by the FDA against those 503Bs and on continuing to who continue to decide to manufacture GLP-1s. And look, do I think that shortage has been resolved? Yes, in a way, but compounding is different. Compounding is has been with the pharmacy from the birth of pharmacy practice, and compounding is critical because if you get brand name drugs, you're just getting that drug. It's not really tailored to your individual needs or patient needs. And these compounded products are specifically tailored to fit your or patient's medication needs determined by independent individual prescriber, whether it be physician or other medical professional. So that's why this lawsuit is Strive Pharmaceutical versus Lilly and Novo is somewhat of monumental step in terms of protecting the practice of compounding in the pharmacy industry. And it is very important. And I really want to dive into the lawsuit a little bit.
Yeah, I was glad to see it. Maybe a little surprised to see it because it is so direct. Let's see here. This is the link if you guys can see it properly, and there's a QR code in here, but it's uh Strive suing, Big Pharma, as we call it, Lilly and Novo, and for specific antitrust. And when you read through it, it's like 49 pages or so. Um, but it calls out a few like very specific things that have happened in the market that have hurt compounding pharmacy. And so far, compounders have tried to just iterate, what's legal or why does compounding exist? What need does it serve? And it's interesting to actually see in black and white now, a large compounder going against pharma and saying, hey, you can't do that. You can't just tell patients blanket outright that compounding is not safe. You can't
Correct.
do that without repercussions. You've hurt our business, you've hurt our patient relationships, you've hurt our prescriber relationships. So we haven't
Yeah, I mean,
seen a lot of success, though. I feel a little defeated sometimes when we'll get excited on the pharmacy front. We'll see these lawsuits. We're like, yeah, tell them, that's great. And then a little while goes by, and then you see that the case was dismissed or something.
mhm.
So I'm hoping that won't be the case here.
Right. So before we dive into this complaint, I mean, as you mentioned, Lilly and Novo, they have been dominating the market, right, in terms of their brand drug products. Righteously so. I'm sure they spent a lot of money coming up with their product, which are all under patent. Fine, right? But is it a one size fit all for everybody? No.
Right.
Compounding, that's where the that's where the market exists for compounders, because not all patients will benefit from the brand name, lack of a better word, cookie cutter brand name drugs, such
Mhm.
as, Wegovy or Ozempic, Mounjaro, or Zepbound. And and I do believe that compounders will survive and or even will thrive. And I was so excited to see this complaint from Strive against Lilly and Novo. I mean, I strongly suggest that everybody who's listening to this webinar or watching this webinar take a moment to really read through the complaint. It has a lot of meat in it, a lot of facts that Strive gathered, and the tactics deployed by Lilly and Novo, hurting the compounders and ultimately actually hurting the patients in the market who actually need the compounded products. Um, I represent a lot of independent pharmacies, right? Of all sizes. I represent mom and pop. I represent retail, mail order, specialty, and I also represent compounding pharmacies of all sizes, whether it be small operation to national operation. Okay. And I wholeheartedly believe that compounding pharmacies serve the patient needs. And if you look at this complaint, you'll be really bothered, like if that's the right word, by the tactics that Lilly and Nova took in order to scare everybody, to
Mhm.
try to throw their weight around. Like, for example, Lilly and Novo, like I don't know how many warning letters that or cease and desist letters that they actually sent out to providers meaning pharmacy providers, to prescribers, to telemedicine companies, and even to not a cease and desist, but more of scare tactic letters to even patients, like asking, who's your prescriber? Give me the name of the prescriber. Don't use Compounded products are illegal. Compounded products are not safe. Totally not true. Okay. And they did it, and then they were somewhat successful because enough number of prescribers got intimidated, including like large telemedicine companies. So
Right.
large telemedicine companies actually enter into exclusive partnership with Lilly or Novo.
Hmm.
And and then at the same time, because of they're obviously feeling the pressure from Congress or state legislators, they came up with the DTC model. They reduced the dollar amount. But again, putting aside the what patient actually pays, does it serve the patient? I don't think so. I don't think it's not a one size fits all. solution. People need compounding. So, but in any event, like I wanna go over certain things that I read from the complaint that was very disturbing. Okay. Like for example, I'm reading like I'm gonna read right off from the complaint. Andrew
Mhm.
Dunham, CEO of Hims and Hers, commented on the terminated partnership between Hims and Hers and Novo Nordisk, saying Novo Nordisk had pressured Hims and Hers to, quote, steer patients to Wegovy, regardless of whether it was clinically best for patient, end quote. Clear example of patient steering.
Yeah.
And this tactic, obviously it's not new. This tactic is, more prevalent in the PBM side, right? PBMs trying to steer away prescription away from independent pharmacies to their own pharmacies. Novo is doing this to try to drum up their market share. And in the complaint, it says that Lilly has 50% market share. Novo has 40% market share. The compounders have 10% market share. They're literally dominating the market.
Right.
And now they want to even close the loop on the independent compounders.
Yeah.
And so they're forcing or they're putting a lot of pressure on large telemedicine companies like Hims and Hers, saying that, hey, regardless of whether it's good for the patient or not, push Wegovy, push our product.
What do you think the recourse could be for that? Have you seen anything like this where a pharma company is pushing, it seems kind of unprecedented, but where they're pushing their product?
Well, I've seen like consequences like in PBM sense,
Yeah.
right? Like a lot of states have PBM regulation where PBMs are not allowed or prohibited from steering patients, steering prescriptions, and they get fined, right? So, but I don't think the states or even Congress are really the law is always slower than the reality. Law,
Right.
like as an attorney, the law is always a catch-up game. Something happens, law develops, and then law protects that, right? But so in the end, I think there will be some repercussions there. I hope so. And then I hope the FTC is really, I hope FTC looks into it. Like they're
Yeah.
looking into the PBM vertical integration model and the anti-competitive behavior by the PBMs. So, like, do I think, I mean, I hope I have the crystal ball, but this is something that FDA may be interested in looking into. Like
Yeah.
50% by Lilly market share, 40% by Novo, and they're 10% the independent compounders. And now they're trying to even squeeze out the independent out of the market.
Interesting. I saw in the Strive suit as well that they're even suing for damages, right?
Mm-hmm. They're
So
suing for damages. And the other thing that I wanted to mention that is like in that complaint, it describes a letter dated June 20, 2024 letter from Lilly. Li In that letter, Lilly said, quote unquote, compound medications are never safe to use. Not true. That's not true. 100% inaccurate. They're not in a position to even say that.
right.
Okay. Compounded medications are not approved by the FDA. Okay. They could say that, but they cannot say that compounded medication is never safe to use. And then Lilly also misrepresented the integrity of drug compounding, despite the practice serving an essential and prominent role in the history of American medicine for over a century. Okay. And what else is there? The complaint also describes Lily's outreach, Lily's reach to other third-party relationship, such as like in May of 2025, Meta pulled down the social media group discussing compound GLP-1s, and then dozens of community groups were also shut down overnight. And payment processors such as Tebra and Stripe began sending letters to prescribers stating that, hey, if you intend to continue prescribe compounded medicine, there could be a pause in payment processing. I'm sure they didn't do it, Meta and Stripe, voluntarily. I'm sure they felt some sort of a pressure
Yeah.
either from Lilly or Novo.
Yeah. Yeah, there was even pressure on the pharmacy side that some credit card processors were saying if you're processing payments for compounded GLPs just in the independent pharmacy space, so not very large on these specific credit card processors that were for online transactions,
Correct.
that they were going to shut pharmacies down on that.
Right. I mean, look, again, my clientele is mostly independent pharmacies. Okay. Um, so whenever I advocate for my independent pharmacy clients, including compounding pharmacy clients, the traditional PBMs are my adversary. Like in my humble opinion, I always view PBMs as the sole cause or, major contributing factor in terms of ever increasing drug price. Because
Yeah.
brand
Yeah.
drug comes out, brand manufacturer, they have to pay rebates to PBMs. It's like pay to play. If
Mhm.
I want to have my product in the formulary and in a higher tier or favored tier formulary, then I gotta pay higher rebate. That's why the cost of the drug is goes up every year.
Yeah.
But here, Lilly and Novo, we're talking about cash market, and they're trying to squeeze out independent compounders out of the market. And this to me is the same behavior that I've seen from the major PBMs, more of a money grab, more of a monetizing, more of a money driven than patient care,
Yeah.
which is quite disappointing.
It is, but it's also been so hard to rein in the PBMs or have any sort of change for them. Do you think it's going to be as hard to rein in big pharma?
Well, PBMs are changing. Like literally changing. I think we are changing the tide. Um, More people are being educated. More people know what PBMs are, what they actually do, and how they hurt the patient, plan sponsors. And so PBMs are being regulated, and I want them to be regulated even more, right? Like, and the states are doing their job or well, certain states,
Yeah.
not all states. Like for example, Oklahoma, prime example. They've been filing suits, settling cases, fining PBMs left and right. Like last year, I think state of Oklahoma settled with Caremark over $50 million for not, passing on the rebates and
Hmm.
then fine them also for charging for paying independent lower than what they should have reimbursed.
Yeah.
And more recently, California, Governor Newsom signed a law mandating that PBMs are fiduciary to plan sponsor. That is like a monumental law that passed. So do I think that the same approach will be taken? Um, I'm cautiously optimistic
Hmm.
because you can't stop compounders from compounding. And
Yeah.
the other thing that I believe I mentioned in other webinars that I had with you before is that Novo and Lilly, they're not only deploying like the scare tactics to providers and even patient, they're trying to change the fundamental concept of compounding by going to board of pharmacy meeting, by
Right.
challenging the definition of compounding. Like they're trying to do
Yeah.
everything in their power.
That's exactly right. I actually have a slide pulled up. Let me know if you can see it because I have a lot of screens running here at the
Mhm.
same time and it's going kind of crazy. Can you see that there, the state compounding law proposals?
Yep.
So here's a couple in my home state of Florida. that have cropped up, and it's exactly what you said. And I know that big pharma is pressuring state boards. They're sending them letters. We've seen the letters. And here it's a couple, something for the Florida Senate and something for the Florida House, where just different proposals where they're trying to change definitions of compounding. They're trying to change like wording about where the API comes from. You have to use the exact same API as the FDA approved pharmaceutical ingredient, which isn't, that doesn't usually happen. And it's interesting because the FDA just put out that green list, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're talking about APIs, but it's not a public list. It's not completely opened. Uh, but these proposals in Florida talk about potential, these Chinese APIs coming in that are untested, unverified, and they're not on any list. And if you read into these, it says too, there's just different requirements where the API providers overseas have to have FDA registration, have to have FDA inspection within the past 2 years. So each line that I read on each additional page alone might make sense, but all together it's problematic. It's like, wow, is this going to just shut down compounding in Florida? What is this even about? And then it just loosely says, if you're compounding anything for weight loss. Well, what's the definition for that? Because the compounds aren't FDA approved and they don't have FDA approved indications.
Correct.
So they're trying to put it into this neat box, but compounding doesn't fall into a box that way.
Right. Silver lining is that Board of Pharmacy and the board members, um, most, if not all boards, are I think my prediction is that they're not going to allow big pharma
Mm,
to sway them to limit the ability to practice pharmacy.
mm.
And compounding is one form of practice of pharmacy. And again, it's been with the practice of pharmacy since the birth of pharmacy. Okay.
Yeah.
It serves a purpose for patients who need individualized, customized, or tailored medication. And plus, these compounded prescriptions are actually written, authorized, or ordered by the patient's primary care physician or other medical professionals, tailored for that patient.
Right.
And nobody can really influence or limit the clinician's medical judgment or decisions to provide certain medical therapy to a patient. So
Yeah.
I don't think compounding will be limited whatsoever. Of course, Lilly and Novo, they're going to spend a lot of money. I mean, they have deep pocket, right? They make billions of dollars. They already made billions of dollars off of GLP-1s. And they're gonna continue to want to make more money, which is fine. But I don't think ultimately at the end of the day, I don't foresee that the compounder's ability to compound individual medication for specific patient will be affected that much.
So if we think about supply chain, then that's where it also becomes a little gray because you have, like you said, compounding, individualized, patient specific. It's between that legitimate relationship between the prescriber and the patient and the prescriptions written for a valid medical purpose. Uh, that's all cut and dry. But then you have in the supply chain for GLPs, you have 503B, which are
Hmm.
regulated by the FDA outsourcing facilities. And then you have 503A, which are regulated by the state board primarily. Um, when you talk about these GLPs, though, the GLPs, they're not on the shortage list anymore, so they can't be a commercial copy. So in the definition of compounding, they have to be, have an additive that makes it different than the commercially available, and that additive is there for a valid clinical purpose. And I say that with an asterisk because in California, there was some sort of, I think it was the board or something that said it has to be for a valid, clinical reason, adding these additives into the compound. So who determines the clinical reason? The board, the FDA, or the prescriber? And at what point do they overstep? So anyhow, there's that. But with 503Bs, they're manufactured, they're scale. So 503Bs are supposed to make products at scale. So some have argued that 503Bs can't make an additive or a customized dose more than 10% different than the commercially available or anything at scale because then it's not patient specific. Or they'll
Correct.
say some of these 503As, like Strive and like the other nationwide 503As, are so big that now they're not patient specific. They're not custom tailored. To that, just as a pharmacist looking at it from the outside, I just say that the demand for these medications is so big. So who's to say, oh, you can't make these at scale because it has to be customized? It is customized. There's just millions of patients for the first time ever that
Right.
this type of therapy is appropriate for.
Well, yes. I mean, if I would, again, FDA, to my knowledge, has not exercised its enforcement authority over 503Bs who are who decided to continue to manufacture GLP-1s with additives or not, and then who decided
Yeah.
to sell their products to their customers, including 503A pharmacies. Okay.
Right.
And I think it's the fundamental issue. Um, if I was a pharmacist before I became an attorney. If I let's say I own a pharmacy right now, okay, and if I have an opportunity to purchase 503B of GLP-1 products from 503B, legitimate product, and everything checks out, and then I have patient bases who need these medications, I would purchase 503B, or I would compound myself if I have a sterile compounding lab or a clean room.
Yeah.
I would do that and then service the patient. And of course, that's just me. And
Yeah.
and I don't think I have not seen enforcement activity over that. And the other thing that I forgot to mention that is Lilly and Novo. They created an exclusive relationship with with certain telemedicine companies, right? Prescribers. Where are they getting, and then where are those prescriptions actually go to, like be sent to? Manufacturer affiliated pharmacies, right?
Right.
And not independent pharmacies.
Right.
So they're controlling they have their own this per se ecosystem of prescriber, patient prescriber pharmacy.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's like in one umbrella. That's to me, in a way, that is vertical integration that I see in the PBM industry.
Yeah.
And in fact, how's that not a violation of kickback? You know?
Right.
And I found I believe there was a lawsuit. I think it's still pending, might be still pending, filed in August of 2025. Attorney General from Texas filed lawsuit against Lilly for bribing providers to prescribe its own medication, including GLP-1, Mounjaro, and Zepbound. It's just, again, it's just no patient care concern. Maybe there is some, but it's there, but the monetary interest, tops that. That's
Yeah.
what this lawsuit represents.
Yeah. And I know there have been some pharmacy groups that have tried to enter into those closed networks. There's some pharmacy groups with 4,000 pharmacies, 8,000 pharmacies on the independent side that said,
Hmm.
hey, we will dispense your products if you want to do a direct to consumer model, if you want patients to
Hmm.
see your telemed providers and then add our pharmacies to the network, because it's just not good patient care to have patients filling different prescriptions at all different pharmacies with no clinical pharmacist oversight into the whole profile. And these prescriptions aren't hitting the switch. They're not going to the PBM. So no one sees the full picture of the medication
Nobody,
the patient's on.
nobody. And look, I mean, the telemedicine and telepharmacy, it's been booming, right? Especially during COVID.
Right.
Um, but I think it may sometimes it hurts the patient. It hurts the
Mhm.
patient care. There's no oversight.
Yeah.
There's no checks and balances. And that's why I like to, that's why I advocate for independent pharmacies in the country. Like you have different relationship with the your local pharmacist per se
Mhm.
than someone on the phone, like, 800, whatever the number is, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And who knows what the incentive is for some of these 800 numbers or websites. It's like you don't know what's going on in that supply chain. Whereas your
Right.
independent pharmacy, you need someone who is independent. Um,
Well, I mean, the incentive is clear. Like incentive is like this lawsuit by the Texas Attorney General of Texas says bribing prescribers to prescribe their own medication to further increase their market value, which they already control 50% of the market. Like, come on.
it's
Like,
wild.
I'm all for making money, right? I want everybody to make money and be successful. Like we live in a capitalistic society, right? But there's got to be limit to it.
Right.
It's like don't
Yeah.
squeeze every single cent and dollar out of, especially at the expense of patients' health.
Yeah. That's
No
exactly.
drug is what is that term? Like silver bullet for
Mhm.
every single medical condition, or that's
These
just
are
not possible.
close, but
Yeah.
these are close, but they're not quite there yet. You know what's
No.
interesting too, in watching how the landscape and the supply chain with the 503B and the 503A and pharma and state boards and how all that's happening. Um, the FDA is, I know they haven't enforced specifically, but they are still visiting these 503B facilities, inspecting them. I know that they have inspected 503B facilities recently because the reports are online, they're
Mhm.
publicly available.
Right.
They've inspected facilities that are currently manufacturing
Right.
non-commercial copies of GLPs. But there's nothing in the write-up about the inspection that I've seen yet that addresses that.
Well, I thought you were gonna say the Novo. There
Oh
one.
yeah, the Novo inspection, that was a bad one. That was a
Yeah.
bad one. Their facility, yeah.
Yeah.
Not
Animal
great.
hair or human hair. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
there is one, but it's one of the labs owned by Novo.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that's why this Strive suit is even more interesting because it talks about the tactics that Novo and Lilly took to disparage
Mhm.
these compounders, pharmacies in general, and then their own, they live in a
Right.
glass house themselves because their own
Yeah, so
inspection is
it's like, oh,
terrifying.
everybody's dirty except me. And then when you really look at that company and their facility,
Yeah,
it's not,
not great.
thorough.
Yeah, no, not sterile, right?
Yeah.
So there's that, and that's interesting. Like we're not seeing the enforcement yet.
Mhm.
They
I
can't.
mean, there will be. I mean, there will be enforcement on not by the FDA, but I think it's more on the FTC side that they're gonna start looking into um, the market share of Lilly and Novo.
Hmm,
Um, because FTC, as you know, they have been investigating PBM vertical integration, right? That
yeah.
vertical model, and FTC is still gung ho on, you know, like a better word, dismantling that business model because it's very hurt. It hurts the patient taxpayers, you know.
I lost a lot of faith in the whole FTC blocking out monopolies and all when I was in pharmacy school and the CVS Caremark merger was going through, and all my professors said, "Oh, the FTC is going to block this, and the government will never let this happen," and they did, and it's terrible. And
Yes.
really, all the mergers that
Yeah.
have happened since then in the vertical
Yeah.
integration of this healthcare sector has not
I
been
mean,
great.
at that time, I don't think FTC really, this is my opinion, my personal opinion, not a legal advice, um, a legal analysis, but I don't think FTC really knew the aftermath of this
Yeah.
vertical integration. Like if you look at um, what's his name? Adam Fiend's drug channels website, and then he
Yeah.
posts a lot of articles, especially on the vertical integration.
Yeah.
And then he has his own diagram of vertical integration. Is heavy.
Yeah. It's incredible.
Insurance company, PBM, GPO, wholesaler,
Yep.
retail, specialty, physician groups,
Hmm.
and then I believe they're also the PBMs are also trying to, or they have some stake in the switch companies because switch is where all the data is housed in, right? And then and this for a fact, this is not public available knowledge, but for a fact, I know that PBMs are trying to get into a private equity space. You know, playing behind, investing money in PE, buying, different entities in the healthcare sector. So it's got to stop, and it will stop.
Yeah. I hope so. I hope it stops.
Yeah, if not FTC, like states, they're gonna do it. Arkansas passed a
Yeah.
law. Of course, it's right now that law mandating PBM not to own pharmacies in that state, and I believe CVS Caremark challenged it and is with a court for the judge to rule on it. But more
Interesting.
states will regulate PBMs.
I hope so. I mean, it's kind of like a be careful what you wish for. We don't want, big government doing all these things, but we want them to do the things we want. So it's kind of,
Right.
kind of be careful what we wish for there, but it's definitely fascinating. And so if I pull up this PowerPoint, so we have the QR codes there just to look at those cases. I know even my friend in Colorado was telling me yesterday there's some bills that have been introduced in Colorado. Um, so all that's going on. But just some plugs here, and then we have contact information for Dae and for myself at the end. But we have our conference coming up. I know Dae, you're going to be there
Yep.
with your partner at Buchanan. AtriumX, it's our pharmacy conference. It's peer-led. There's no presentations from the stage. There's no CE credit. It's all workshop, and we all vote on the topics we want to talk about. We have a bunch of experts there, professional facilitators. So my friend told me the other day he didn't buy his ticket yet because he didn't get an invite. Well, this is your invite. So we're actually 7 weeks away today from AtriumX. It's March 5th through 7th in Orlando. So I hope to see you guys there. And this is contact information and such. If you want to talk specifically about your state, about which 503Bs have which products in your state that are licensed, we also work with some 503A central fill pharmacies, so we can talk about your state specifically. Definitely fill out our contact form, and then you can talk with Sam about your specific opportunities. If you have any legal questions, of course, we're going to refer you over to Dae because you don't want me answering your legal questions. We can complain about things, but I can't help you on the legal front. Um, so there's that there. And then I've mentioned a little bit the Atrium24 GPO. That's where we kind of first went down this whole rabbit hole of 503Bs, selling into 503A pharmacies. It's really just opened up product access for all of our independent pharmacies and the patients that we serve. So you don't have to be a sterile compounding pharmacy to provide sterile compounded products from FDA inspected facilities. So it's been a really great business opportunity for pharmacies. It's been a great patient care opportunity. And what's been really fun from where I sit, we've been able to aggregate hundreds of pharmacies. And then we, as Atrium24, go to these 503B manufacturers and we say, hey, we want to do some vetting. We want to see what's happening, check all your licensure, look at your product catalog, and then see if we can get a discount, a GPO discount for all of our pharmacies in the network. And we've done that. We have pretty significant discounts on the 503Bs that we work with. And our goal in 2026 is to also open up that GPO to clinics. So I know we have some clinics that do direct dispensing, med spas and things. They can join the GPO as well because all of it, that rising tide raises all the ships. It helps all of us. The more purchasing power we have as a group, just the more access we can get, the better seat at the table we can get to get access to more products at better price points so we can dispense them to our patients. And we're going to be including a lot more products and services in the GPO this year in 2026 because we started with just 503B, but now we have telemedicine. I know, Dae, you work with our pharmacies and they can access all your contact information in Dottie and reach out to you there as a Dottie member. So there's a lot of there's some compliance companies that are wanting to get into the GPO and offer just discounted rates and bundle packages for our members. So it's been exciting to see the caliber of companies that are coming to us and wanting to offer their products and services into the GPO because our pharmacies are so strong.
Right. And as an attorney, I attend a lot of conferences. I speak at a lot of conferences. Um, I attended AtriumX last year. Very different. Not a cookie cutter. Very interactive. I strongly suggest to everybody to attend that conference. And Dottie and Dottie software as well as the GPO services. I mean, I don't have any financial stake in the company, but I think this is something that every independent pharmacies really need to look into because you have to adapt. You have to be proactive in order to protect and grow your business. And everybody who complains about, oh, pharmacy industry is so difficult, we're struggling compared to the ones who are saying, hey, we're adapting. We're making new line of revenue. We're capturing more like different opportunities. Those are the ones who will survive. Those are the ones who will thrive. And I strongly suggest you take a look at Dottie and the Atrium24.
Yeah, thank you so much. We always love talking with you, Dae, and I know there's so much going on. You'll keep us updated, and we will see you in person in 7 weeks at AtriumX.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Thanks, everybody. Have a good rest of your day.